Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live their dream healthy lifestyle. Today, I am recording a very exciting podcast because it is one that I would have paid thousands of dollars for back in the day when I was trying to count macros and I didn't understand what the heck was going on. And so many women decide that macros aren't for them just purely because they don't understand it and they think it's too complicated. And today I'm going to be breaking down how to master your macros so you feel confident tracking macros. And so it actually feels easy and second nature because a lot of women I talk to think that macros are way too complicated. They don't understand it. And that leads them to just completely writing off the skill altogether. And that shouldn't be the case. And that used to be me. At the beginning of my journey, tried to track macros multiple times and failed each time because I lacked the knowledge of what macros were and how to do it in an efficient way. So today I'm going to be breaking down how you can really learn about macros and have these skills to just do it super easily. And so it's just something that is part of your lifestyle. So I think the first thing to talk about when it comes to macros is the bigger picture of macros, at least my bigger picture with macros, because currently, right now, I don't even track my food, but I every single day use the skills and the knowledge that I learned from macros in order to now eat in a more mindful way. When you are tracking macros, essentially what you should be doing is learning about nutrition. Macros is not a diet. It is a skill and a tool to really learn about the nutritional value of food. So later on in life, you can delete the apps, you can throw away your food scale and really confidently eat intuitively, mindfully, and sustain your results. That is the bigger picture here in Purpose Athletics is that we want to teach women macros for the most part. Some women don't track macros in our program, and that's okay. It's a case by case basis. But most women start off by learning about nutrition and macros and then are able to intuitively eat by the end of the program because they really understand food and nutrition in general. And that's honestly why I am a really big fan of macros is because when you take a really active approach to tracking macros and realizing like, wow, I didn't realize how much fat was in an egg yolk, or wow, I didn't know that this many carbs were in a glass of wine. And just understanding about nutrition, it really unlocks so much in your head, and you realize there are no good or bad foods. There's just more nutrient dense and less nutrient dense foods, and each food is made up of macros. So, if you really understand macros, it really eliminates a lot of the fear around food because you literally just realize, okay, this is just macros and it's not that big of a deal. You can fit in whatever food. Oreos are a certain nutritional value, and so is a banana, right? And they're going to be similar in calories. You can eat the same amount of Oreos in calories as you can banana. Yes, your body will process the banana differently, but it is not like it's a good or bad food. So, anyway, that's the high level overview of what the purpose of tracking macros is. It's not a diet, it is a lifestyle and a tool to use to be successful long term. So, let's kind of talk about like what the heck is a macro, because I might be saying macros right now and you're like, Abbie, what is a macro? This sounds so complicated and scientific. And I hear you. I get it. When I first heard macros, I was like, macro what? Like, am I in a lab or something like that? Basically, macros make up your calorie intake for the day. So, protein, carbs, and fats are your macronutrients. Now, there are micronutrients as well. If you think about your fruits and vegetables, those would be like micronutrients, but the macronutrients are the bigger ones. So, protein, carbs, and fats. With the macros, basically, there are 4 calories per gram with your proteins and your carbs, and there are 9 calories per gram for fats. Therefore, fats are, a little bit more dense for the amount of calories, which makes sense because 110 calories are in a tablespoon of olive oil, right? That's very small, whereas 100 calories of broccoli is going to be a lot bigger because those are carbs. So that is kind of like the volume aspect of food and the calorie aspect of the bigger picture. If this is making no sense to you right now, follow with me. It's okay. And definitely when you start tracking macros, you will understand like, okay, that makes up a gram of carbs for calories, right? So it's really not that complicated, especially if you are using an app. thank God we don't need to track this by hand anymore. Like back in the day, people would need to track this by hand. Like, thank you, MyFitnessPal. That is what I usually recommend for women to use when it comes to tracking their macros because it's the simplest app in my opinion. So basically, macros make up your entire calorie value. So I'm just going to give some example macros just so we can kind of understand like what are macros, right? So for instance, for me, my macros have been like this at some point during my journey. So I've had maybe 150 grams of protein, okay? And then if I have 50 grams of fat and then I have 200 grams of carbs, that's going to make up my total calorie expenditure, right? So I'm just going to do some quick math. If you are not watching the video, I'm pulling out my phone right now and hopefully I remember what I just said. But I said 150 grams of protein. So that would be times 4, 600 calories. And then 50 grams of fat times 9 would be 450 calories plus 600. And then I said 200 grams of carbs, which is 800 calories. So that would total equal 1,850 calories. So that's kind of the math behind things. If you're not good at math, that is totally fine. That's why you have people to help you out with this. But basically, if you are using an app, it will add it all together. So do not worry about that. So this is a good segue into kind of the next point of a lot of times women fail with tracking macros because they have the wrong macros. I am on calls with women pretty much daily and they tell me their macros and I want to pass out on the ground because they are so bad. And by bad, I mean, if you go to just a generic app or you plug these things into MyFitnessPal, yes, I love MyFitnessPal as an app to track your food, but the calculations, girl, they are tragic. So a lot of times women will get macros that are way too low for their body. And then they end up feeling like they're a failure and macros don't work for them when the amount of food that they have been eating based on a calculator that is not derived to anything based on their body is totally wildly inaccurate and is not going to work for them. And that's a lot of times why women are failing to make progress isn't because macros didn't work, is because they have the wrong strategy when it comes to macros. I am a perfect example to this. So when I first started tracking macros, I got a macro calc from a company that should not be named, but they gave me 1,300 calories to eat for this macro calc. Mind you, I am 5'9". I should not be eating under probably like 1,800, 1,700 calories if I want to have good hormones and feel healthy, okay? So I was eating 1,300 calories on this meal plan. I thought that macros sucked. I couldn't do it to save my life. And I felt awful. And I just thought, you know what? Maybe macros just don't work for me. When in reality, it was the amount of food I was eating with those macros that was not right. So that being said, if you're using a calculator, do not go to extremes. I know MyFitnessPal has an option to lose 2-3 pounds a week. Please do not do that. Sustainable fat loss, shoot for 0.5 to 1 pound per week if you are using a calculator. That will be so much more sustainable. But more times than not, calculators just aren't going to be the best approach when it comes to women, especially when it comes to metabolic adaptations, especially when it comes to hormonal adaptations, your schedule. All those factors should be taken into account when it comes to calculating your macros. And I have been there before with using shitty macros that made me feel awful and also led me to not seeing any results because I was doing the wrong amount of macros for my body. Once I actually had a plan that was built for my body and my metabolism, I realized, wow, macros weren't the issue. It was the amount of macros I was eating from a bullshit program that sucked. Apparently, I'm swearing in today's episode. Sorry if any kids are in the car. And then as far as like macros too, like macros are going to evolve over time. They're going to change based on how your body is adapting to those macros. So basically, if you're at a certain amount of macros for a long period of time, your body is going to adapt. I'm just thinking about one woman in particular that I was talking to earlier this week that had been eating 1,500 calories for months and months and months and wondering why she wasn't seeing progress. And it's because your body adapts, right? Like your macros should be something that you are not married to for the rest of your life. Your body is constantly evolving and changing. Therefore, your macros should be constantly evolving and changing as well. I never like to make crazy decisions or emotional decisions with my macros. I wait for 3 weeks or so of data for me, for my clients before making a change. But just know your macros should not be totally solidified for your whole life. Like those things are going to change. And that's probably another reason why you think macros doesn't work, is because those macros probably just have been outdated for your body and you need to get a new set of macros for that. So as far as my favorite apps go, I said MyFitnessPal was my favorite as far as tracking goes. I know a lot of people use Lose It as well, and they like that. Personally, I like MyFitnessPal. So that is that as far as the tools to use. Another thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes to macros is that it's going to be a learning curve. Think about when you first started reading or riding a bike or doing math. Like, did you learn those things overnight and it was something that was super easy for you day one? No. So why do you expect learning a new skill like macros to just come super naturally for you? No one, including myself, learns macros overnight. Even my most proficient clients in macros, it took a few weeks and it took some questions to be able to ask those things. And it's very normal to, at the beginning, be a little bit overwhelmed and not know what to do. And I think that's, I'm not like shameless plug, but that's kind of the beauty about coaching as well, is that you can ask like me or Cassie, your coaches, like, what to do with macros, especially at the beginning. There are going to be a lot of questions because this is something that you're completely brand new to. It's going to feel a little bit like what's going on, but once it clicks, it's this amazing, just like night and day shift of like, now I understand it. And it's so exciting. And you become super proficient in it and it's super easy. So definitely accept that it's going to be a learning curve. Nothing crazy. I would say most of our clients pick it up within the first 2-3 weeks. It's nothing like horrifying where you're spending years and years trying to learn like Chinese or something, like it's a different language. Like this is going to be pretty simple, especially with the apps and the technology we have nowadays. Chat GPT, hello. But know that you shouldn't quit after a week. Like it's going to take a little bit of time, and most people just don't put enough effort or time in to actually understand macros. And once they do, it's super easy and second nature for sure. And one thing to realize when you start tracking as well is that you are not going to hit your macros first day. If you did, I'd be like, hello, who are you? What planet did you come from? Most people are going to be over on your fats or your carbs, and that is totally normal. I actually asked our client base in Purpose Athletics, like, what's the number one thing most women struggle with? And just in my group chat, and they pretty much all said that struggling with going over on their fats or carbs is something that they struggle with. And that's something I 100% struggled with as well. I remember when I first started tracking macros, I was like, holy moly, I eat a lot of fats, right? So that's going to be something that you should recognize that will take some time to rebalance those things. And it is completely normal to be struggling to hit your protein at first, being over on fats or over on carbs, vice versa, and needing to slowly taper those things down and rebalance out your macros. A really good approach that we take with our Purpose Athletics clients, and what I recommend as well if anyone is struggling to track macros, is to start out by just hitting your calorie goal. Okay. Start just getting comfortable with the app. Start kind of actively tracking and seeing like, okay, what amounts of protein, carbs, and fats are in the foods I am eating day to day. And then just seeing, okay, am I going super over on my carbs or protein? Am I really under on my fats? Like whatever the case may be. And then slowly working on improving those numbers. So start with just hitting your calories. That will get you to your goals alone, but hitting your macros is going to get you to your goals even quicker and more efficiently. So start with hitting your calories. Then start hitting your protein and your calories. Then all you have to work on after that is getting your carbs and fats down. And what kind of happens naturally is that when you start hitting your protein and your calorie goal, those things kind of come a little bit more into line or a little bit easier to hit. You can get to your goals by just tracking, honestly, protein and calories. Those are the two most important things, in my opinion, in order for most people, just kind of lifestyle clients, to get to their goals. But hitting the full trifecta of protein, carbs, and fats is going to be the best thing. One thing that a few clients asked me when I was just going to record this podcast episode is how do I hit my protein goal without going over on fats? And this is a great question because it can be hard to hit your protein goal while staying inside of your fat goal. And this is because a lot of proteins also have a fat with them. So if you think about eggs, great source of protein, but there is fat in the yolk, right? Or if you think about ground beef, great source of protein, has a lot of fat in it. So my biggest tip for people when they are first going from not tracking at all to needing to hit a fat and protein goal is to start having more lean protein sources. So basically having more things that are lower in fat and higher in protein. So instead of having like ground beef that's 80-20 percent, right? 80% protein or 20% fat, have one that is lower in fat, right? So I get like 96 for ground beef, for instance. That's going to make it way easier to hit my fat goal because it is a lower fat option. When I'm having eggs, I'll have 2 eggs for the yolks. Perfect. That's a great amount of fat for my diet. And I'll add egg whites. So it's higher in protein, but lower in fat. Instead of buying high fat Greek yogurt, buy low fat Greek yogurt. Doing these little things throughout the day is going to really help, and focusing on lean protein sources is going to be a lot easier and help you to really be balanced with those macros. So another thing that really helps with hitting your macros is the concept of pre-tracking. And actually in my last episode where I interviewed my client, Marissa, we talked a lot about pre-tracking and how this has been an extremely pivotal element to her getting to her goals and being able to plan throughout the day. So pre-tracking, think of it as the GPS that you need to do to hit your nutrition for the day. Rarely are you going to wake up and just eat throughout the day and perfectly hit your macros. That just doesn't happen. And if it did, it's probably you should go to Vegas because you're extremely lucky. It is going to be hard to get to your macros perfectly without having some sort of plan and structure. And I really highly encourage, especially when women are first starting out with tracking macros, to pre-track your day. So the night before, the morning of, put in everything that you need to eat to hit your macros for the day and then follow that blueprint. Yes, you might have things that come up throughout the day and you need to pivot or do something else, and that's okay. Just fit other things in. But if you at least have a plan starting out for the day, most of the time you will be able to execute and follow that plan. And the first time that you pre-track, you're probably not going to be amazing and hit it perfectly and enjoy all of your meals. That's where you get to the end of the day and you think back to, okay, what went well this day? What maybe could have gone better? Did I like my meals I had today? Did I feel energized? And then changing it a tiny bit for the next day to be a little bit better. So for instance, I was talking to a client that was feeling super low energy before her workouts. And I asked, okay, like what does your day look like for your pre-tracking? And she had no meal before her workout. I'm like, okay, easy fix, right? That would be like a little audit you could do of like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit low energy before my workouts. Maybe I do need to add a little bit more carbs and proteins before my workout, right? So doing those mini audits day to day and thinking about what you can do to pre-track more efficiently for the next day is super important. Pre-tracking literally has saved my life and my client's life so many times when it comes to macros because you can basically put yourself on a meal plan that is flexible and you can put whatever you want in there. Especially if I'm having like a meal out or if I know I'm going to be having a few drinks, I'll pre-track those and then build the rest of my day around it. So that way I am 100% hitting my macros, but I'm also able to enjoy the balance. Like I'll pre-track chocolate chips. I'll pre-track Oreos. I'll pre-track things that are fun foods and then build my day around them if I want to have those foods. The beauty of pre-tracking is that you have the GPS to get there, right? And if something comes up, okay, life happens. It's happened to me before, and you can always pivot and track something else that's similar in nature to macros. But it's really important to realize that you are going to get to your goals if you do have some sort of plan in place. And it doesn't have to be rigid. Like I said, if something happens, you can pivot, you can put something else in, but it's really important to have at least some sort of plan and structure when it comes to hitting your macros and going throughout your day. Another thing that really has helped me is having certain anchor meals throughout my day. So meals that don't really change. I find when I go into my day and I'm just like, I'm just going to eat whatever, it's really hard to get to my nutrition targets and to feel my best. So I have a few meals throughout my day that stay pretty similar to each other. This also eliminates so much decision fatigue. I'm not even thinking most days about what I'm eating day to day. I'm just like copy and pasting and having the meals and feeling just great in that aspect. So I have a few anchor meals. For instance, my breakfast has literally stayed the same for the past year, and I love it. I have 2 eggs, a piece of toast, some veggies scrambled, and I feel great. Okay. So that would be an example of an anchor meal. I usually have the same snack and dessert as well. Then I just need to figure out what I want to do for dinner. And it's really not that hard rather than going into the day and being like, what do I need to do? And then struggling to hit your macros or to get to your goals because you never have a plan or structure. And that's going to make it really hard. So definitely recommend having a list on your phone of anchor meals, of meals that you know you enjoy, give you energy, fill you up, make you feel good, are easy for you. And then that way it makes your life a lot easier. Plus, pro tip, if you have MyFitnessPal, I'm pretty sure it's only on premium, but I could be wrong. Saving those meals and then just adding them into your day makes it so simple and easy. And if you already have like anchor meal, breakfast, egg meal, or like whatever you can name it, you literally just copy and paste that in and you're done. It's so easy. And so anchor meals are definitely very important. So that is kind of all of my like kind of bigger picture tips when it comes to tracking your macros. Obviously, there are so many little nuances when it comes to clients and what they exactly need to be successful in their journey. But for the most part, doing these few things and kind of keeping these things in mind is going to make it a lot easier to get to your goals and to realize like, wow, tracking macros really isn't that hard. I just need to give it a little bit more time and just really learn and enjoy and embrace the process, right? So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode and I will chat with you all next week. Make sure to leave a rating, review, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And I will see you all on next week's episode. Bye.